Strength of America podcast.
Welcome to episode 8 of the SOA podcast. I'm Bob Davis.
Bobby Davis.
Hope you guys had a great Christmas, enjoying the Hanukkah times with your family, going out. Above all, really getting some recuperation time. Schedules are so busy for most of us during the year. Good to have a little downtime in there, and hope they're actually taking advantage of that and getting their meals in. I want to talk to you a little bit about, Bobby, we're talking about what started this whole program and what's going on, and just kind of drop it into the meat and potatoes of what's happening. It's my main thing to start back in 85 to 89 when I was a strength coach at Nebraska. My original one, just prior to that, was figuring out how do we work on athletes. I wanted to work with athletes. My original feeling was going to athletic training. We wanted to do more about getting back on the field to play, getting them healthy, but I knew I wanted to do more than that. And I was lucky enough to get the call while I was there from Boyd Epley to actually join the strength and conditioning staff as one of the coaches there. And that's when I was really able to see how they put that into practice on the performance end, but how we could kind of mix in the athletic training part that I've done with the rehab. And I want to work on more of a prehab program and develop a program for kids to spot where their potential injuries are, catch them ahead of time, and then what do we do ahead of time to increase performance but keep them safe? And that's where we really designed that, and I started the Strength of America program, establishing that. And by doing that, we were lucky enough by the Gymnastics Federation that asked us at that time, it was back in 87, I believe it was, wanted to know if strength training was going to be beneficial for the kids or not. And that was our big thing. We knew anybody at any age with some strength training, it doesn't mean put a 5-year-old under a power lifting bar or something like that to do it. But the idea is adding resistance, getting them stronger. We knew they could get stronger. Anybody at any age can get stronger. But they wanted to kind of do a little more detailed study on it. So we took a group of kids that were already gymnasts at that point. And these kids, they were originally tested by the gymnastics coaches, and they had referees come in, and get them tested on it. And they all did skills testing on the high bar and different rings and stuff. They didn't know who was doing weight training or not. At the end of the 10 weeks, all of the kids had done the regular gymnastics practice, but half of those kids, about 30 of them, did our actual strength training program twice a week. Well, at the end of that time, when they were retested on everything, on their skills, and the judges at that time, again, didn't know who was doing weight training or not, we found that all of the weight training kids got higher scores. They did more of a benefit. So we knew that was kind of validating what we knew was happening. The kids would get better. But what piqued my interest were that we heard from the parents and the coaches that those kids that were doing the strength training part, and it wasn't that necessarily we gained that much strength, although they did in a 10-week period, but their confidence level increased quite a bit. And that's what excited me about was these kids not only were getting stronger, but they felt stronger. And by feeling stronger, they were trying skills that coaches said they never would have tried a few weeks before that. When you start building that confidence, they're going to throw it, they're going to try it, see what happens. So above all for us, we want them to feel the confidence and to get involved in it. And that's where the strength training, I started doing even more research and started training more kids to see what would happen. Because again, knowing it's helpful, knowing that's great, but will they do it? Just like we talked before a couple of weeks ago, you can have a protein shake that's great for them, but unless it tastes good, like the Rock and Refuel, the kids aren't going to drink it. Rock and Refuel, they like the taste of it, they're going to drink it, they're great. We'll choke something down because we know it's good for us. We'll get to the gym when we don't feel like it because we know it's good for us. But these kids, they get happy with the results. They feel good about it. They're going to do even more for it. So the strength training, that's when we started doing programs. And originally I used a line of equipment that called Future Force that Boyd Epley designed with AI. They put this together. It was a great line of equipment made for kids. And that's how I started my program back in 89, using that equipment. It was all machine equipment, had plastic weights you could slide on and off. And what we found, again, with twice-a-week training, those kids got strong pretty fast, did a great job. What I ended up having to do is we had to add plates to it because nobody'd really done any regular strength training like that with the kids. We kind of started that program with it. So after a year or 2 years of training, the kids got too strong for the equipment. So I had to design another line of equipment, had somebody come in, we worked through all kinds of things. And the bottom line is we found these kids were doing serious weight and strength. And even if they weren't producing the amount of testosterone to build the mass and get big, they could get strong. And that's where, I starting with Bobby when he was just a little guy, 5 and 6 years old, he was in our weight room, not doing serious stuff going in, but he was doing a little bit of everything. Then he got involved into it. And then he saw as he competed in soccer and wrestling that he was stronger than those other kids because he'd started at a younger age. Then once they grow, and that's why you'll see some of the girls and boys lifting together. Some of the girls, before puberty with all of these kids, testosterone started going for these boys. A lot of these girls are stronger than the boys. They're competing, they're really aggressive and working hard. They're doing great, which is kind of hard on some of the guys' ego, but it makes them work a little harder as well. Then once testosterone starts kicking in for those boys and they start getting bigger and start getting stronger, well, then we start seeing more of a difference in it. But I can tell you with some of those athletes and some of the girls that we train, they're still stronger than a lot of these boys out there that aren't training much. So it's a big benefit to it. But the bottom line is that, and this is the Pediatricians Association, and so many of them throughout the years for the last 30 years have all agreed strength training is beneficial for kids. National Strength Conditioning Association, so many of them endorse strength training for kids. But it doesn't mean, and we've been worked so hard throughout the years to make people understand, it doesn't mean, okay, go out to the garage, grab dad's weights, and let's get to work. You still have to have a structured program. You still have to see some things going on. And what are some of the things that we look for with kids or we want to watch or kind of start them in a program? Do we just throw them under the squat rack right away, or what do you kind of do with them related to building leg strength and body? What do we do?
I think we start very simple. There's no need to throw someone right under a heavy bar or anything right away, especially if they're young or middle school or below middle school. They got a long time to slow cook and get somewhere. Now, when we talk about slow cook, it doesn't mean that we're going to hold it back from training hard. It just means that we're going to think of a little bit of more of a slow approach to getting to heavy back squats, heavy deadlifts, or different things like that. More complex stuff, I guess, is where I'm going with that. But now, if I have a kid who comes in and maybe he's had experience, he had a good PE teacher that taught him how to squat well and then do basic things, basic push-ups, and be good at using their body. If they're pretty good with their body, then we can start moving them on to maybe a heavy dumbbell goblet squat, heavy landmine squat, or different things like that. And heavy is all relative. Heavy for one person is a whole different heavy from someone else, by the way.
My heavy is much more than Bobby's, but it's relative.
He's talking about his head. His head's heavier and bigger than mine. But anyways, as we're going through, I've had kids I got a 7th grader right now. He can front squat and he sits down to a box and up. And even without a box, he squats way better than most of my high school kids. And I think a lot of that is just realizing that the younger kids move around a lot more and they are better movers. Like my high school kids sit around more. I think they're too cool for some things and they start to get tight and they don't. It's the old use it or lose it term. And some of my high schoolers have more of a problem squatting than my younger guys do. So I think it's great for them to start doing these basic things at a younger age because then they preserve those movement abilities and they run into less issues and they're way stronger when they get older. But a lot of the things that you're going through back on the pediatrician and stuff, some people do get a little weary about that because some will try to steer you in a different direction from going to strength training. But that's just because there's liability involved. They don't know who the strength coach is, so they don't want to necessarily say, just go do it. So I think that's coming into professions and knowing who you're talking to and working with is just that, hey, if I get a kid coming in, I'm going to make sure he can do push-ups, he can do a good squat without weight, and then if he can or she can, we're going to start loading them up in different things. But they'll probably start out with a dumbbell squat to a box and then taking the box away, then going to a landmine and then or a sandbag, and then a bar for a front squat. So it just depends on who you have, what their skill level is, and how they're able to do stuff.
And I can tell you, just for the years of experience and listening to a lot of parents, coaches, doctors, that again, the documentation is there and it's beneficial if they're doing it correctly. Like anything else, you just got to watch that. But we'd have people argue with me when we started this 30 years ago that, well, they shouldn't do strength training until their bones are fully developed. Wait till they're 13. Well, how many 13-year-old boys do you know they're fully developed and it's okay they can start lifting? Most of those kids at 13, they're still growing until they're 20, 21, 22 years old. Bobby still grew when he finished college. So, this if you're going to wait until the growth plates are solid and they're healed at that point and they're not growing anymore, well, now they're 22 and they're done with athletics, on a competitive level. That makes absolutely no sense. And if you're not going to strength training, what happens with that athlete that goes out and gets playing football, for example, that runs into that other kid that's been strength training and has speed and power? and they make contact, who do you think is going to win that battle?
Or, I mean, even thinking about a volleyball girl, jumping up, coming down on one leg, tears her ACL, landing. I mean, just doesn't have the strength or stability. So, I mean, it's pretty simple when you think about it. And when you think of strength training at the basic level when done right, it helps strengthen the bones. Okay? I mean, if you're not giving a good stress to your body, a positive stressor like lifting weights to strengthen your bones, okay, put a suit of armor around your body, then really you're just posing yourself to a greater risk of injury if you're not taking the time to do that. If I get an athlete that's weak, has weak bones, okay, and they're not strength training, and now I'm asking them to jump, run, cut, sprint, all that type of stuff, it's like, I mean, in my mind, it doesn't make sense to think in a weak mindset. You know, you're just prone to more issues to go on.
And the same thing with the football, you know, our original stuff, or any of them going out for the sports. These kids playing ball, those that said we shouldn't have them do weights, we shouldn't do bench press or anything until they're stronger, have got them doing push-ups when they can't even do 2 good push-ups, but yet they're doing 20 push-ups out there. And as they do it, their body's in the wrong position. So their hands are up too far here, really stressing the shoulders, or their body's all bowed, really stressing their spine. They don't have strength in your goals. So you're telling me you're going to do 20 push-ups in incorrect form that are stressing joints all over the body, and yet you don't want to put them on the bench press with a 15-pound bar, which is much easier for them to control, learning the balance and things going in, a lot less stress than them trying to do push-ups. Then they're incorrect and they're not strong enough to do that. So when we talked about, you know, weight is heavy is relative, it is. You know, we've got some of our girls that are in here that are doing, you know, over 200-pound squats, and they've got great form. They've got good strong going into it. But I've got some of the guys that they're doing great just to get 85 pounds on it and get correct form because their spine is, they don't have strength in it. Their body's leaning, they're hunched over, their knees are rolling. So that athlete, that volleyball player, again, that jumps and lands incorrectly because they haven't been trained and not strong enough to decelerate, stop themselves and redirect it, they're blowing knees out all the time. So to me, it's neglecting them if they're not doing some kind of strength training. And again, there's a difference in strength training, powerlifting, Olympic lifting. There's all different levels, and I don't have a problem with any of those lifting. However, you've got to get the basics first. They've got to be able to squat with their body weight. Then they squat with a light bar, and then they go with a heavier bar, and then we can add resistance and work from that point going on. Always working 2 legs instead of 1. You know, we see the YouTube videos and stuff going out there, and there's a lot of stuff out there that's great. However, there's a lot of things out there just to get people to come look at it that are crazy, and you've got to look at what you're trying to accomplish. So we've got to start with basics first. But and just like, was it free weights or machines? We started with machines at the time because that's what we had, and it was beneficial. And I could tell you in the 80s, people weren't too excited about kids doing weight training until they got in and started doing it. So it was an easier transition for us to start with machines and then go to free weights, medicine balls, doing different things and progressing. Now it's a lot more open. But again, we'd rather be on the conservative side and be careful with it than say, yeah, just go out and do it. There's a right way, just like anything. It doesn't matter. You've got to learn the right way to do that. So the strength training has been close to me because that's where we started. And then we got more and more into our speed, our agility, our power camps, the training, getting them involved. But the strength has always been a part. Of course, coming from Nebraska, that was our big thing. And now it looks like we're getting back on track with that as well. So I'm excited about that part too, to see what comes on from the Husker fans out there, or those that weren't Husker fans that were happy that maybe now you're not so happy because we're coming back.
Hopefully.
We will. No, but strength training, what else, anything else you want to kind of throw into that, going into it?
I think just don't be afraid of it. Ask a lot of questions. If you have a trainer or someone you're going to, ask questions, okay? Try to pick apart what they are saying or what their philosophy, principle, or whatever, and they think, and just kind of align it with common sense, okay? Think about anything you do, any kind of skill. Start very simple. Make sure we can do things on a simple level before we get too crazy or complex. And make sure that you know how to use your body, okay? Do 2-legged stuff, and once we knock that, make sure we start to bridge the gap and we start to work more single-legged or unilateral. Same thing with upper body, 2 arms or 1 arm, and transitioning, because when you start to get to that, we're a little more realistic to, like we are in sport, being on using 1 arm or throwing or different things or running or using we're alternating our leg drive and different things like that. We are single leg, so we have to make sure that we don't neglect that, but we understand it. But definitely keep it simple. Start with 2 legs, 2 arms on things, and then start to progress and challenge yourself with 1 leg and 1 arm exercises. That way you're now working more stability and strength and different things like that. That way when you do get to things in sport like landing on 1 leg or running or changing direction, that you know how to use that leg and control yourself, okay? Use your brakes, as I like to say, okay? You know how to brake and control before you drive or really move anywhere. But
yeah, and that's where the strength training doesn't mean it has to be with weights. Strength push-ups are strength training. Pull-ups are strength training. Stepping up and down on a box, all of those. It's adding resistance to make it a little more difficult, but the form still has to be there. We've got to get the technique. But again, that's why we're doing these podcasts, and that's why we've done the Strength America program for so many years, is to help give parents and coaches the tools to ask questions about it, what to do. We've got to be a resource for you to help with that. What we don't want to assume is you take the kids to practice and the coach has got it and they're going to know everything about it and handle it. Because the coach is meant to, they're primarily for the sport to help them enjoy the sport, get better, learn, and want to do more of it. That's great. But as parents, we tend to think the coach also needs to know about injury prevention and injury, if they happen, what do they do about it? Hydration, nutritionalists, they've got to know everything about it. And I can tell you, no one person out there knows all aspects of all of that. We're specialists in what we do with strength training, speed and agility, performance for kids, and coaching and that part of it. But at the same time, I'm not going to go out and coach football. Get them how to do it. Those coaches know that stuff. That's great. Let them know that. But ask questions. Ask what they do about strength training. We're going to have some in the next few weeks also about concussions and necks. That's one of the things that bothers me a lot about what's been happening is there's headlines saying this is good, this is bad, but nobody reads the details behind or gives you solutions on what to do. That's what we want to do, is give you solutions getting into it. So please like it, share it, get the word out, make sure you're on there. If you haven't already done so, hit the link that takes you back to our main Strength of America page where you can sign up for our emails. It gives you free access to our vertical jump program that we'll get to you for free. We've got all kinds of videos and things, how to do that and what to get out there. But let us know questions you have, things going on. Go to the Facebook page. Check our Instagram and the YouTube page that we've got there on Facebook. We'll be having different links throughout the week that's going to expand more on some of the videos and giving you more content throughout the week to help. But keep asking the questions. Let us know what we can do to help get it out there. And this week we will be announcing and putting out on the Facebook page to start with, but what league and team will be getting our first free 2-hour athletic performance camp that we'll be doing for them. And we'll be doing that late January, planning on it once we get a hold of them. So thanks again for following. Have a safe New Year this weekend. And let's get it started for the new year. Let us know how we can help.
Yeah, just ask questions often, whether it's to us or your coaches. Keep it in a nice sense. Don't be trying to ridicule them. But ask questions, be open the line of communications. I think it helps hold coaches accountable and make sure that they understand the why and what they're doing so they can always pull back and say, okay, hey, this is why we're doing things and I can better relay it. If you're doing that, and even when I have people ask me questions, it makes me really know that I got to understand my why, because if I don't understand my why and what I'm doing, then we're just going on a crazy path. We're not going on our straight line to our end goal. So don't think that you'll be pushy. Ask in a nice way, but that'll help hold them accountable, make sure they're continuing to educate themselves and get better. Outside of that, have a safe and happy New Year. Enjoy your time with family. Don't forget to move around, get your meals, and get some good sleep.
Definitely get that protein.
Get your protein.
See you next week.
See ya.